The violin hasn't always been the instrument that we know today. The origins of the violin are uncertain and open to debate, but it is generally agreed that the instrument we know today in Western music as the violin had its origin in the Arabic rabab. The rabab had two strings made of silk attached to an end pin and strung to pegs used to tune the strings and fifths. The rabab was fretless, with a pear-shaped body made of gourd and a long neck. The instrument was held on the lap and played using a bow with resin rubbed on its string. No images or examples exist of this instrument, but it is described in documents dating from the late ninth century. As a result of the European Crusades, an instrument called the rebec, based on the rebab, appears first in Spain during the middle 11th century. The rebec differs from the rebab only slightly. The rebec has three strings instead of two, the body is made of wood rather than cord, and the instrument is placed at the shoulder to play rather than the lap. The viola appears in 13th century France. It differs from the rebec significantly. There are now five strings, the body is much larger and closer in shape than a modern violin, with ribs enable greater flexibility when bowed. It is worth noting that the name viol came later to refer to a different instrument, viol la roux, or is more commonly known now as hurdy-gurdy. The violin, by all accounts, originates in northern Italy during the first half of the 16th century, but the inventor is unknown and will remain open to discussion. Most scholars credit Andrea Amati of Cremona as the first violin maker, because there exists documentation of two violins he created between 1542 and 1546. However, these instruments had only three strings like the rebec. The first four-string violin, also by Andrea Amati, was dated 1555, the oldest surviving violin. There have been no real improvements to the violin in about 400 years. In the late 19th century, a chinarus was added by Louis Saufour, and later a shoulder rest was constructed to make the violin more comfortable to play on. People have experimented with different materials such as carbon fiber to see how the violin would react. Also, there has been the invention of the electric violin, which is used for bigger venues such as stadiums and arenas. At first, the early masters of violin making paid no thought to the issue of proper bow, so people continued to play using the fiddle and the rebec bows of the late Middle Ages, and many of these violin bows were very clearly designed as rhythmic instruments, so some of them were only 20 to 30 centimeters long and had a strong convex curve. Their length was further restricted by the player using an upper hand or closed-fisted grip. The introduction of a longer bow triggered a series of changes in construction, especially increasing the height of the head, so as it achieved a more even distribution of weight and playability along the full length of the bow. Bows with less of an arch gradually became more popular until eventually the straight to slightly concave line evolved. As with the case during the Baroque era, music itself was what provided the main impetus for keep refining the design of the violin bow, while the focus during the 17th and early 18th century was fulfilling the demands of increasingly challenging compositions which were oriented towards solo performance. The emphasis shifted during the 18th century towards bourgeoisie concert performance, which called for a powerful sound which could also assert itself in larger spaces. The violin had established as a solo instrument that had to be able to hold its own in larger ensembles such as symphonic orchestras. The musical world of that day focused more and more on outstanding virtuosity, a trend which was very much in keeping with the rising interest in the principle of genius. The performance style of these virtuosity was defined by multifaceted bowing technique. The first name which needs to be mentioned here is the soloist and composer Giovanni Battista Viotti. He is considered one of the fathers of modern violin playing, and his motto, "Le violon c'est l'arche," emphasized the role of the bow like no one else had. The key developments which led from the classical bow to the modern bow occurred under the influence of Viotti, along with other soloists who remain legendary today. While bow making in the classical and Baroque periods was defined by many fluid shifts, the modern age of bow making has clearly identifiable founding father and classic figurehead, Francois Xavier Tourte, whose reputation as the Stradivarius of bow making is undisputed. It is thought that this bowmaker's son was initially trained as a watchmaker before joining his older brother Leonard's workshop and learning the family trade. Towards bow design took the accomplishments of classical bow making and perfected them, always with an eye to growing demands of aero soloists. One of his early innovations still stands the test of time. He used premium Pernaku wood this permitted him to apply complicated physics to the shape of the stick, and as a natural material, the wood remains unequal to this day. The massive successes which Troy enjoyed even during his lifetime were not solely due to the mathematical sophistication of his bows. They were also attributed to the ideal playing characteristics he made possible. The Torrid bow was perfectly balanced and had a quick, agile response because of its strong inward arch. This bow offered the largest spectrum of playing techniques ever encountered, from full cantilever playing to newest spiccato techniques such as saltando, ricochet, and sautille. Troy perfected every aspect of the model, including the contours of the head and the mounting of the horsehair, which he widened and increased. The most recent development in modern bow making involves working with composite materials such as fiberglass and carbon fiber, which have been manufactured since the 1960s and 1990s, respectively. In the meantime, they are also available as high-quality models. The use of these materials is partially a response to the shortage of good Pernambuco. This is in turn due to the expansion of agricultural areas and major construction activity, which have affected the most important sites in Brazil where the Pernambuco tree, Cassapania egnata, is grown. Hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you for watching.